You say the BBC should adopt the adversarial approach, which is, as you rightly identify, common in newspapers, in British courts, and which is the basis, after all, of John Stuart Mill's argument for democracy and freedom of speech, that we should let truth confront error, and from that we will discover what is right and what is wrong. I agree with you about that, and my central point tonight is the BBC agrees too. It does encourage adversarial debate. It does encourage and permit such debate. The truth is, though, that its presenters don't take part in it. They are impartial and their guests take part in the debate. So that's a key point. The adversarial approach certainly thrives on
Tim, just on that one, just before we move on from that one, I mean, you know the counter-argument to that one, don't you, which is, in a sense, what the presenters do and say is neither here nor there. It's all in the selection of the guests. So, for instance, if you've got a panel on Question Time or the Today programme, it's the selection of A, the story, and B, the people you get to come on and talk about the story that makes all the difference. And it can seem entirely benign, but actually it's in the choices that are made that are nothing to do with the presenter where the bias creeps in. That's the argument.
Again, you're a very intelligent man, and of course, story selection is vital and guest selection is vital. But the BBC is a very large organisation, as well as being a very influential organisation. And in all of its choice of guests, it tries to be balanced. And you mentioned the Today programme, where I worked for many years. The Today programme's efforts to be balanced are reflected every morning in the balance that it achieves. And I hear many very intelligent Conservative voices making their case on the Today programme. I hear Labour politicians contesting those voices, and I don't have a clue what the presenters think. And I think that that applies across nearly all BBC News and Current Affairs output. It might surprise you to know that I have got a few concerns about some BBC entertainment output, because I do think that that has sometimes reflected the views of the playwrights who have written the scripts rather than a balanced view, and that sometimes troubles me too. Now, Nadine Dorries, as Secretary of State, you're certainly right that she has replaced in Oliver Dowden someone who was a critical friend of the BBC, and with Oliver Dowden has also gone John Whittingdale, who was in fact the Minister responsible for broadcasting at the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. And John Whittingdale, again, although a good Conservative, was a critical friend of the BBC. In what she said in the past, Nadine Dorries has appeared to be not so much a friend as a critic, and I am concerned about that. I should think that some of my former colleagues at the BBC are concerned too. But I think as licence payers, we should all be concerned if someone wants to attack this great British institution, which is truly respected around the world, because the BBC does something for all of us. There's a lot of BBC coverage that I don't watch and BBC radio output that I don't listen to, but I'd pay the licence fee for the Today programme and The World Tonight alone, because I think
Tim, we're men of a certain age, aren't we? Tim, I mean, we are men of a certain age, and you know, to say that this is a service that reaches everybody, that's just palpably not and demonstrably not true anymore. I mean, if my kids don't watch telly, and they're not alone in that. I mean, they don't get their news from TV. You know, they get it from Facebook, they get it from their online sources.
That's probably true, Colin, but they tend to engage with GBNews online as well, not on screen. And I certainly know that a lot of my students at South College Durham read the BBC website and get their news from BBC News Online, and that they enjoy that, find it very factually accurate, find it very stimulating, and think it's a useful contribution.
We open another area up there with that, don't we? And I know this is something Nadine Dorries has talked about. I mean, up in Durham, my first paper, the Northern Echo in Darlington, I suspect would be in a better financial position than it's in, were it not up against the BBC local internet offering that it is facing competition from. And that has struck many people, certainly in regional and local newspapers, as iniquitous. It's unfair competition for regional newspapers with a profit motive to try and set themselves up against the BBC, which has got this secure, forward-looking, in the eyes of some people, poll tax, but a massive settlement worth still billions of pounds a year that they can rely on for years to come.
I think local newspapers do an absolutely superb job of covering local news. I think they do it much better than any BBC website. I think the BBC's website is fantastic at world news. I think the BBC's website is fantastic on national issues. I don't think BBC local coverage comes close to the best local newspaper coverage. And as someone who ran and was a director of a local commercial television station, I thought we did that job better than the BBC locally as well. But you see, I don't think the BBC is damaging Britain's media landscape at all. I think the BBC is a part of Britain's media landscape, and that it would be much more damaging to that media landscape if the BBC was competing for advertising revenue or for private subscription fees, which I think are properly spent buying newspapers, and I encourage people to do that. They're fantastic British products and fantastic local products. I think it would damage the income to commercial television stations, which I admire and which I am very happy to pay to watch through subscription or through the advertising that appears on screen. And I do remind you, Colin, I have actually launched a commercial television station funded through advertising, and I understand the competition, but I certainly wouldn't have wanted the BBC competing for that revenue. So I think the licence fee is the right way forward. Yeah, okay. I think the licence fee is a good service.
It does throw up some iniquities, though, doesn't it? I don't want to make this excessively ad hominem, but I'll cite it because it's an example, I think, which encapsulates quite a lot. I started my monologue there talking about Jeremy Vine. There's Jeremy.
A good friend of mine and a Durham alumnus.
Yes. But with a platform that is at least partly provided at the point of the licence fee gun. And now, nobody is suggesting, I think, that someone like Jeremy Vine needs to try to be boring, but he needs to avoid controversy, and not just him, but people like him who are acting as commentators. Because I come back to my essential point, Tim. If somebody doesn't like what I'm gobbing off about tonight, well, it's neither here nor there. They can turn off the telly, end of the story. Somebody listens to Jeremy Vine tomorrow, maybe he's going on about cyclists or whatever, somebody really objects to what he's saying, and I know you'll say, oh, well, they can write into this board or this website and make their complaint abundantly clear. That changes very little. People, the consumer, the customer is not involved in that equation.
Well, I don't think that's true, because the BBC is extremely sensitive to criticism of its presenters, and it has a discipline its presenters when they do something wrong. And indeed, it has recently disciplined several presenters, notably Emily Maitlis, for comments she made on Newsnight, which the BBC judged to be a failure of impartiality. Now, I am a huge fan of Jeremy Vine. As I say, genuine, he is a friend. I worked with him on the Today programme. I admire him greatly. I don't think Jeremy shows any bias at all. I'm sorry if you felt upset by something that Jeremy has said.
Really, I don't feel remotely upset, Tim. I just think it flags up a fundamental discrepancy between, as I say, the ability of a customer, we have them, we'd like to have more of them, who can say, actually, he's talking a load of old rot, I'm switching off, and somebody who's listening to BBC output, who maybe arrives at the same conclusion, but can do absolutely nothing about it. And that's why I use
they can certainly switch off.
It's morally unsustainable.
Well, they can certainly switch off, Colin, so that comparison's a little unfair. You can certainly switch the television off when you
They've got to keep paying the licence. That's my point.
There's a very important point.
Go on, really quickly.
About how the licence fees enforced. You give the impression that it's the BBC which has made non-payment enforceable in law, i.e. payment enforceable in law, sorry. It's not the BBC that makes payment of the licence fee enforceable in law. It's the government. Yep. The government has been asked on many occasions by people who take your view to make the licence fee unenforceable. Tim. But the BBC has kept the enforceable licence fee because Conservative governments have insisted that they want the licence fee to remain enforceable in law. Now, Nadine Dorries might decide to change that. I hope she doesn't.
We're out of time. Appreciate your time very much indeed.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.